We're talking about at least 12,000 people were killed. This is a magnitude that is very, very rare in the Middle East with that speed. The goal of the Trump administration is to stop the killing. But then what happened after that is not necessarily an American control of Iran. Iran is a very large country of 90 million, nothing compared to India. But certainly this is one of the maximum, this is one of the largest deployments since World War II. Not even in the Cold War we had that position. On the other hand, the Trump administration is making the case that Greenland is under threat.
It looks like a new changed order when it comes to the world. How is Donald Trump's foreign policy shaping the world? What's happening in West Asia, the Persian Gulf, as also very close to America? To discuss this, I'm being joined by former foreign policy advisor to none other than Donald Trump himself, Dr. Walid Phares. Dr. Walid, thank you so much for joining me here on the network. Let's begin with what we are seeing very closely and monitoring very closely when it comes to the situation on the ground, Iran. Earlier, we thought that there is going to be a military intervention by America. That's not looking likely at this point in time. What changed? Is it Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Bahrain, Turkey, the calls that went to White House?
Thank you for having me, number one. And number two, that's what is seen in the media because statements are being made. And mostly because President Trump, in one or maybe two of his tweets and posts, has said, including a statement he made, that now killing has stopped. What he did not say, number one, was it has stopped because there is a curfew, because people cannot go to demonstrations at this point in time, and the troops are taking the streets, taking the towns, the villages, but that is not a guarantee that the war, that the suppression by the regime has stopped. Second, there is a kind of a preparation. So those events have happened very quickly, developed very sharply. We're talking about at least 12,000 people were killed. This is a magnitude that is very, very rare in the Middle East with that speed. But the other experts are sharing with us from the close to the administration that what President Trump has tweeted and promised that he is going to help the Iranian protesters. He said in a tweet, which is still there, that you need to continue with your expression, take the institutions, move forward, we are with you, and we will act. Now, between that statement and the preparation, in reality, nothing has changed. If you look at the map, you see task forces, you see preparations, you see evacuations, etc. Remember that Israel also could be one of the targeted sites by the regime if there is an action. And Israel, according to the information, needed time to prepare itself. So I'm thinking about that.
Well, that might be the case, but how much do you think is the fact that there could be a blowback and allies in Middle East, or what we call West Asia, were concerned that Saudi Arabia is looking at maybe status quo right now, because should Iran be under American control and Iranian oil become kosher, then it is Saudi Arabia that will feel the brunt of it the most.
Yes, but 12,000 people killed is more important than any oil deal in the world. I know if you are in a multinational corporation, oil corporation, a government that produces, you do the calculation without the lives of people. But once a massacre of this size has taken place, then the calculations are different. We've seen it in Yugoslavia. There were a lot of interests, but the international community intervened to stop the massacres. We've seen this in many places in Africa and also in Asia. So the goal of the Trump administration is to stop the killing. But then what happened after that is not necessarily an American control of Iran. Iran is a very large country of 90 million, nothing compared to India. It has its own talents, its own bureaucracies. What needs to happen is a multi-ethnic, pluralistic government to take over, and they will normalize the markets. Of course, everybody else who produces oil will have to match with the changes. We don't match geopolitics with oil, but oil with geopolitics.
Right. But Dr. Phares, at this point in time, if you were to advise the Trump administration, what would your advice be?
To tell you the truth, it's going to be very difficult because the situation, the dilemma that exists in Washington is huge. On the one hand, if the Trump administration does not intervene, this is what's going to happen. The regime in Iran is going to crush a majority of the Iranian people. Second, the credibility of the United States in other places where it has been seen as protector, including in the Arab countries that usually seek American protection, it will be very weak. The countering of jihadists worldwide will be weak. It will be a chain of events. If he intervenes, or if the US intervenes, they're not going to do a war on the ground. They'll be targeting of the actual militias that has been doing the job of killing. And that these militias are known. These are the IRGC, and they are also the Basij militias. Once those are targeted, there'll be a change in Iran. The majority is clearly, we saw it on the streets of Iran. There'll be a majority government which will be in transition. So the choice is not that easy. He will have to take all the calculated risks possible.
What are the pressure points over here? Because we do see a climb down from Washington, D.C. So, what are the pressure points that you see in your reading of how things are panning out?
It depends on the behavior of the Islamic regime in Iran. If they will continue, it will be unbearable for the American and Western public and international public if more than 12,000 would be killed. And if there will be a situation in Iran where the people will experience something bigger like a genocide, and or if fights will start inside Iran that would threaten the stability of the region, then that would be unbearable as a pressure. Second, if there is a diplomatic solution that would allow a transition in Iran between the current government and a new government without a fight. If that happens, then there could be a solution that would not need an American intervention. I don't see enough chances for that to happen because it looks like Tehran, the regime in Tehran, has made their own decision. That's why I put the Iran file, as you are doing right now, as number one in the world at this point in time.
Okay, but bear with me when I ask you to weigh in on this. Isn't the Trump administration, Dr. Phares, very stretched at this point in time? You've had Venezuela. He's already threatening Cuba. You have a situation when it comes to Israel and Gaza. You are also in talks when it comes to Russia, Ukraine. All the aircraft carriers are at least a week away from the Persian Gulf. In such a scenario, where does Iran really stand?
That is a very good description, actually, of the situation. Very stretched. I wouldn't say stretched thin, because for every maneuver that the Pentagon does, or backed by the intelligence services and the State Department, they calculate how much they can go. It's not you go as much as there are oceans. They always keep reserves. They always have a supplement to the task force they send. But certainly, this is one of the maximum, this is one of the largest deployments since World War II. Not even in the Cold War, we had that position. So there are other areas with political problems, like, of course, if we discuss Greenland briefly, or maintaining ceasefires that have been achieved before, including India, Pakistan, including also in Africa, these necessitate diplomatic enforcement. But the only place where I think there is an actual need is basically Iran. The crisis in Iran is more important to resolve because of the size of the victim, the size of the demography that has been hurt.
Okay. The other aspect that I would want you to weigh in on is Greenland. Now,
Yes.
we do know that American administration is focused on various aspects, but Greenland has become top focus for Trump administration. It's not the second term. It was also during the first term. But this comes at a time when France has sent its troops. UK, as symbolism, has sent one soldier, and Macron visited Greenland. The Greenland Prime Minister has sided with Denmark. In such a scenario, where do you see Trump administration position itself when it comes to Greenland?
It's going to be a lot of negotiations. We all know that the U.S. and the European Union are all members of the NATO. So if the option is taking Greenland and losing NATO, it needs a lot of thinking, especially in the Congress, in the United States Congress. We cannot let go of our partners. On the other hand, the Trump administration is making the case that Greenland is under threat. They concluded that Russian and Chinese interests are increasing their patrolling of the area, and maybe they could control some of the spots in Greenland, which will be considered by the Trump administration as a strategic threat. So that's why the administration said we will take it no matter what. But indications and information that we have lead to believe that there could be other than taking the island. For example, one that is not yet declared but could become a solution is to lease it. There has been cases around the world where leasing was permitted, including in the Panama Canal, the Suez Canal, and other places, where you can have an actual signed contract of leasing, I don't know, 50 years, 100 years. The sovereignty will remain under Denmark, therefore under Europe, but the use of the island will be by the United States. That's one of the scenarios that could resolve the problem.
Very, very interesting, Dr. Phares, because I don't think a lot of analysts have been talking about leasing, but certainly Trump administration has gone further, saying that if not by negotiation, then they will take Greenland by force. Again, I'd have to ask you this. Is that a viable option? Is it even possible? Because a US congressman has already put a bill on the annexation or to annex Greenland.
The difference is 1 inch, really. What the United States, actually what the Trump administration want and their supporters in Congress, is to be able to deploy forces there and to be able to use the land, so on and so forth. And they said, if we get a no, we will go no matter what. But if a third way, a median way would come and say, okay, you can lease it and get a lot of things that you want, like all the bases that you want. If you want to have another contract on minerals, so all of that could be done except the sovereignty. So I think at this position, if the Trump administration gets everything except the sovereignty, I think there'll be reasonable voices on both sides of the Atlantic to resolve it.
Okay, and final question before I let you go. We've discussed Iran, we've discussed Greenland, but a lot of voices when it comes to Iran. But we've not heard the same kind of strong voices when it comes to Gaza from the same quarters in the United States of America. The ties between Israel and United States of America, Dr. Phares, everybody understands. But then again, you spoke of loss of lives. Shouldn't that really matter in Gaza as well?
Absolutely. But let me mention a nuance in the loss of lives. It's not just the numbers, it's also in what circumstances. Like when the Allies were bombarding the Third Reich during World War II, the losses inside German cities were enormous, way bigger than the losses in London or Britain. But there were two military sides basically fighting a war. So in Gaza, you have Israel, giant force, and you have Hamas that did October 7. And of course, these thousands of people killed, civilians, were killed, but in a war, meaning there were two sides, and each side argue, it's because of you. In Iran, it's different. It's a systematic obliteration of peaceful people, like when the Ottoman Empire for example, destroyed the Armenians at the time. There were no two sides. There was one side taking action, military action. That's why they call it genocide, systematic destruction. Now, the numbers, of course, in Gaza, more people were killed, but in 3 years than Iranians in 2 years. In 2 days or 3 days, 12,000 is enormous. It will be the equivalent of most genocide around the world. So death is death, it's abject, it's horrible, and the priority should be the resolution of that matter. In Gaza, as far as we understand now, there is a dividing line. There should be the establishment of an international security force. There will be the reconstruction of Gaza, and then there will be a resolving of the issue of arms with Hamas. So that is a path. In Iran, there is no path. That's why it is very important that there could be a path in Iran that would stop the attacks against the demonstrators on the one hand. And I mentioned my little piece, which is a transitional government. That's how things are resolved in respectable places around the world.
Okay, and do you see a resolution in Venezuela as well to that effect?
Venezuela is a way different path because Venezuela has accepted, the bureaucracy has accepted to cooperate with President Trump. So it's kind of, they have, I don't want to call the term surrender, but it is kind of. And the only option now would be to work with the transition, which is internal, it's the same regime, and prepare the alternative. And the alternative would be Madame Machado or other opposition leaders. It's going to take more time than the rest, but there is no violence at this point in time in Venezuela.
Dr. Walid Phares, thank you so much for joining us with this great perspective. Thank you so much for being here on India Today Global.
Thank you so much for having me.